Her parents sued her for $400,000 after she refused to cover her sister's debt, then called her ungrateful. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. Samantha Lewis stared at the envelope in her hand as if it might catch fire. The return address wasn't unfamiliar. It belonged to a local law firm. Her hands trembled as she tore it open, heart pounding. Inside was a lawsuit. Real, legal, and horrifying. The names printed in bold letters across the top made her stomach twist. Her own parents were suing her. This must be a mistake, she whispered, flipping through the pages. But it wasn't. Her name, her signature space, the allegations, it was all real. They were accusing her of neglecting family duties. The reason? She had refused to pay off her sister's mortgage. Not a loan she co-signed. Not her own financial mess. Her sister's. She dropped the papers on her kitchen table and stumbled backward, her legs weak. At 33, Samantha had built her life through grit. She lived in Dallas, Texas, and worked as a marketing manager at a well-known tech company. She wasn't rich, but she was stable and proud of it. Every bill paid was hers. No shortcuts, no handouts. But none of that mattered, she muttered bitterly, pacing the floor. Her parents never saw her independence as strength. They only saw what she lacked. A husband and children. You're not complete until you have a family, her mother often told her, usually after praising her sister Hannah's perfect life. Samantha clenched her jaw. This lawsuit was the latest slap in the face. A cruel reminder that no matter what she did, she would always be second best. Growing up, the comparison between her and Hannah was constant. Hannah, 3 years older, was the golden child. She got married at 25, had 2 boys, and became her parents' pride. At every family gathering, their mother gushed, "Hannah balances motherhood and homemaking so beautifully. Samantha, you could learn from her." Samantha sat there, nodding silently while her insides boiled. She never asked for help, never caused drama, and never leaned on anyone. But to her family, those weren't virtues. They were just proof she was cold and selfish. The expectations never matched reality. It was like she was being punished for simply living life on her own terms. Then Hannah's life began to crumble. Her perfect husband was exposed as a serial cheater. One day he simply left, abandoning her and the children without warning or money. Samantha didn't hesitate. "I'll cover the divorce attorney," she told her mom. "And I'll help with the rent." She paid 6 months up front. She babysat the boys after work and on weekends while Hannah searched for a job. "You don't have to, but thank you," Hannah whispered once, eyes red. Samantha thought maybe, just maybe, her family would see her differently now. Maybe they'd understand her worth. But they didn't. They saw her as a solution, someone to shoulder everything. One Wednesday evening, Samantha was working late when her mother called. "Can you come over? We have good news to share," she said in a voice oddly chipper. Tired but curious, Samantha drove over, thinking maybe they were finally acknowledging her efforts. When she stepped into the living room, the mood shifted. Her father stood holding a thick packet of papers. Hannah and their mother were seated beside him. "What's this?" Samantha asked, sensing the tension. "A mortgage," her father said, handing it to her. "We bought Hannah a new house. For the kids." Samantha blinked. "That's great. But what does this have to do with me?" Her mother smiled. "You're going to pay for it." Samantha's heart stopped. "Wait, what?" she asked, still clutching the mortgage document. Her father's expression was firm. "We've decided that you'll be responsible for the monthly payments." She sat down slowly, staring at them. "You're kidding, right?" Her mother crossed her arms and replied with a soft but sharp tone. "You're single, Sam. You don't have kids. You have a stable job. Hannah is struggling. This is just you helping the family." Samantha's hands trembled. "So because I'm not married, I automatically become the bank?" Her sister looked down at the floor, silent. "Why didn't you ask me first?" she whispered. "Because we knew you'd say no," her mother answered flatly. Samantha stood up, her voice steady but cold. "No, I'm not doing this." Her parents looked stunned. "What did you just say?" her mother asked, her voice cracking. "I said no. I've already done enough. I paid for the lawyer. I paid her rent. I helped raise her kids when you two couldn't be bothered. I won't be dragged into this anymore." Her father scowled. "You're being selfish." Her mother's eyes narrowed. "So you'll just watch your nephews become homeless?" Samantha shook her head. Don't twist it. This isn't about the kids. This is about you always using me as a safety net. She turned and walked out, heart pounding. The phone calls started the next morning. First it was her cousin Elise. "You're really not helping your sister?" she asked, judgment thick in her voice. Then came Aunt Tricia, then Uncle Marvin, and even her second cousin whom she hadn't spoken to in years. "She's your sister, Samantha. Don't you care?" They all repeated the same line as if reading from a script. Not one of them asked how Samantha felt. Not one of them thanked her for everything she had already done. To them, she was simply the selfish woman refusing to help her struggling family. That night, Samantha turned off her phone and stared at the ceiling in the dark. Every word, every accusation replayed in her head. She had spent years trying to earn her family's respect, trying to be enough. And now, because she had said one word, no, they acted like she was a villain. She sat up, picked up her phone and started blocking numbers. Elise, Tricia, Marvin. One by one. He even left the family group chat. The silence that followed was like a breath she hadn't taken in years. No buzzing phone. No guilt-laced messages. Just peace. 2 months passed quietly. Samantha poured herself into her job, reconnected with a few friends, and even adopted a gray rescue cat named Juno. For the first time in a long time, her life felt like it truly belonged to her. That peace shattered one Saturday afternoon when she found an official-looking envelope in her mailbox. It was from a law firm. "No," she whispered, tearing it open with shaking hands. Her stomach dropped. It was a lawsuit, filed by her own parents. They were demanding $400,000. The reason? Reimbursement for raising her. She nearly laughed from the absurdity, but instead she sat down and cried. Samantha wiped her face and stared at the lawsuit in disbelief. Cost of raising a child? Sounded like a joke, but the signatures were real. Her parents were serious. The people who once tucked her in at night now wanted to be reimbursed like she was a defective product. Her mind swirled with questions. How could they do this? How could they betray her this deeply? That evening she called her old college friend Jennifer, now a successful attorney. "Jen, they're suing me," Samantha said, her voice cracking. There was a long silence on the other end before Jennifer responded calmly. "I'll be at your place in an hour. Don't panic." Jennifer arrived with her laptop and a fierce determination. After reviewing the documents, she looked up and scoffed. "They have no legal grounds. Parents are responsible for raising their children. That's not something you can charge for." Samantha let out a shaky breath. "Then what is this? Why are they doing it?" Jennifer's face hardened. "They're trying to scare you into giving in. It's emotional blackmail with a legal mask. But we're not going to let that happen." Samantha nodded slowly. "I'm done being their doormat." Jennifer closed her laptop. "Then let's build your defense. Every dollar, every transfer, dig it up." Over the next 3 weeks, Samantha transformed her home into a war room. She pulled out dusty folders, scrolled through years of bank statements, and searched her email archives for receipts and screenshots. $7,500 for Hannah's divorce lawyer, she muttered, highlighting a payment. $8,200 in rent payments for 6 months. She logged every Christmas gift, every birthday contribution, every gas money transfer she'd sent to her parents. It was exhausting, but it was also empowering. With every document she filed, she was reclaiming her voice, one transaction at a time. The day of the court hearing arrived with gray skies and heavy tension. Samantha wore a simple black suit. She looked calm on the outside, but her stomach churned. Jennifer walked beside her, carrying the file of evidence. "You've got this," she whispered. Inside the courtroom, Samantha's parents sat with Hannah and a few judgmental relatives in tow. Aunt Tricia and cousin Elise avoided her gaze. Samantha's grandparents, however, sat quietly on her side, their presence the only comforting anchor in that tense room. The trial began with Samantha's father rising to speak. "We raised her for 18 years. We paid for her food, her clothes, her education. We gave her everything. Now she has a good life and she turns her back on us when her sister needs help." He spoke with practiced indignation as if the court owed him sympathy. Her mother followed, stating bluntly, "The money is for Hannah's house. She and her kids need a stable home." There was a pause. The judge, a stern man in his 60s, lifted his pen from the paper and looked up. "So, The reimbursement is not for yourselves but to pay your other daughter's mortgage? The silence in the room was deafening. Samantha's parents exchanged glances, caught off guard. Well, yes, her mother admitted. But it's all for family. The murmurs among the relatives started immediately. Even Aunt Tricia looked uneasy now. The judge nodded slowly, then turned to Jennifer. Your statement. Jennifer stood and calmly opened the file. She read every major expense Samantha had covered. Divorce fees, housing costs, childcare help, monthly support. Your Honor, my client is not only not ungrateful, she's the backbone of this family, Jennifer concluded. What they're doing is not about justice, it's coercion. Samantha looked around the courtroom as Jennifer spoke. Her mother's face had hardened, but Hannah now stared at her hands, cheeks red with shame. Her father was no longer meeting her eyes. For the first time, Samantha saw the cracks in their confidence. The judge nodded again and spoke clearly. Parents are legally required to care for their children. Raising a child is not an invoice. This lawsuit is without merit and clearly coercive. I hereby dismiss the case. A wave of relief swept through Samantha. She exhaled shakily. She had won, legally, emotionally, and morally. Jennifer squeezed Samantha's arm. You did it. Across the courtroom, the judgmental relatives sat in stunned silence. Elise quickly gathered her purse. Tricia stared at the floor. No one dared to look Samantha in the eyes now. Her grandparents stood slowly, clapping gently and offering her a proud smile. We knew the truth would come out, her grandfather said softly. Samantha nodded, her throat tight. She had imagined this day for weeks. This courtroom, this victory, but now that it was real, it didn't feel like triumph. It felt like freedom. A week passed and Samantha thought the storm had finally passed. But one evening her grandmother called. Sam, your parents came by. Samantha sat up straight. What did they want? Her grandmother sighed. They asked us to give Hannah her inheritance early, to pay off the mortgage. Samantha's chest tightened. And what did you say? Her grandmother chuckled. We told them inheritance is not a piggy bank. And if anyone sees us as an ATM, they better not expect a dime. Samantha burst into tears, a mix of laughter and sorrow. At least someone still stood on her side. 2 months later, Samantha finally bought her dream house. It wasn't big or flashy, but it was hers. Nestled in a quiet suburb, it had a small garden where she planted lavender and rosemary, a cozy kitchen where she baked cookies on Sundays, and a sunny living room where her cat curled up beside her. No criticism. No demands. Just peace. Meanwhile, Hannah had rented out the house their parents claimed was for stability, because she couldn't afford the mortgage. She and the boys moved back in with their parents. And for once, Samantha felt no guilt. We all have to live with our choices, she whispered to herself one night. And this life is mine. Samantha's days became quiet, intentional. She started sleeping better. Her mornings were slow and peaceful, her evenings filled with books, soft music, and the warmth of her small home. Friends began to visit more often, drawn by the tranquility of her space. Her coworkers noticed the change too. She smiled more, laughed freely. You look like someone who finally stopped carrying the world, one of them remarked. And it was true. She had finally put the weight down. No more guilt. No more walking on emotional eggshells. One autumn evening, Samantha received another email from her parents. She hesitated, but curiosity got the best of her. The message was short and sharp. Lauren and the kids aren't comfortable here. Now that you live alone in a spacious house, the right thing is to let them stay with you. It's only fair. Her hands tightened around her phone. There was no apology. No humility. Just entitlement. As if everything she had worked for was still theirs to claim. As if nothing had changed. She sat in silence, staring at the screen. Her heart no longer raced like before. She wasn't shocked. Just done. With calm precision she typed her reply. I will not let anyone move into my house. This home is mine. If you continue to send messages like this, I will report it as harassment. Do not contact me again. She hit send, then blocked every account linked to her parents and sister. She didn't cry. She didn't second guess. She simply chose herself. Finally. As the months passed, the silence held. There were no more knocks on her door. No more messages, no more accusations. And strangely, no more longing. She didn't miss the chaos. didn't crave their approval. The hurt was still there, buried deep, but it no longer ruled her. She spent her weekends repainting. Her grandparents remained the only family she kept close. They visited often, bringing homemade pies and old photo albums. They never pressured her, never guilt-tripped her, never asked for anything. "We're proud of you, Sam," her grandfather once said, his eyes twinkling. "Not because of your job. Furniture, visiting antique stores, and baking lemon bars for the elderly neighbors next door. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. And for Samantha, peace was priceless. Not because of your house, but because you stood up for yourself when it mattered most." Those words stayed with her, tattooed on her soul more deeply than any praise her parents had ever given. Sometimes at night, Samantha would look up at the ceiling and wonder, will they ever understand? Not just what they did, but how much it cost her. How many years of silent sacrifice had been erased with one lawsuit. But the answer never came, and she stopped waiting for it. Not all stories get closure. Not all pain receives justice. Sometimes all you get is space. Space to breathe. Space to heal. And space to begin again. By winter, her home was fully hers. Each corner bore her personality. The fireplace crackled with warmth, the walls glowed with soft light, and the scent of cinnamon often drifted from the kitchen. Her cat, Juno, had claimed a sunny corner by the window as her throne. And Samantha had finally built a sanctuary. Not just with bricks and wood, but with boundaries. With strength. With the choice to walk away from people who never saw her. One afternoon she received a letter, handwritten and slightly shaky. It was from her grandmother. "Dear Sam, I know we can't undo the past. But we hope your future is full of people who see you for who you really are. You've done more for this family than anyone will admit. But we see it. We love you. And we will always be on your side." Samantha read the letter over and over again, tears slipping quietly down her cheeks. At least someone still understood her heart. Spring came early that year. Lavender bloomed in her garden. The sun stretched longer across her porch. And with each passing day, Samantha smiled more. Not because life was perfect, but because it was finally hers. She no longer needed to explain herself, defend herself, or beg for love. She had chosen her own happiness, and for the first time in years she felt free. Not from her family, but from their expectations. On the anniversary of her court victory, Samantha invited her grandparents and a few close friends for dinner. They laughed, they shared stories, and they toasted to peace. As the evening faded into candlelight, Samantha stood by her window, wine glass in hand, and whispered to the wind, "I'm not selfish. I'm just finally choosing me." And with that she closed the chapter, not with revenge, not with bitterness, but with grace. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away. Moral lesson: choosing yourself is not selfish, especially when those you love mistake your kindness for obligation. Real strength is knowing when to stop giving to those who only take.